My name is Vanessa Cole, and 6 weeks ago, my mother kissed me on the forehead, told me she loved me, and then helped my brother leave me to die in a locked garage. They didn't use a gun. They didn't stab me. They didn't even have to touch me once I was unconscious. They simply put me behind the wheel of my own car, started the engine, closed the garage door, and walked back into the house while carbon monoxide slowly filled the room. The last thing I remember before everything went black was my mother standing beside the kitchen counter holding my wine glass. She was smiling. That is the part that still wakes me up at night. Not the hospital. Not the oxygen mask. Not the headaches that lasted almost 2 weeks. Not even the doctor telling me another 20 minutes might have killed me. It's my mother's smile. Because I had seen that same smile thousands of times growing up. When she braided my hair before school. When I graduated from college. When I bought my first house. When I handed her the keys to the SUV she'd been begging for. That night, she smiled the exact same way while waiting for the drugs they'd slipped into my drink to take effect. My family told everyone afterward that I'd tried to kill myself. They had a story ready, a suicide note, a reason. Even witnesses prepared to say I'd been depressed. There was only one problem. I survived. And while they were inside my mother's house dividing up the company they thought they had inherited, my smart home security system was quietly uploading evidence to a cloud server none of them knew existed. They thought they had buried me. What they actually buried was themselves. But to understand why my own family decided I was worth more dead than alive, you need to understand the kind of family I came from. And more importantly, the kind of daughter I used to be. I grew up in Richmond, Virginia, in a small 3-bedroom house where 7 people somehow always managed to need something from the one person who was least likely to say no. That person was me. My mother, Lillian Cole, had 3 children. My older brother, Darren, me, and my younger sister, Monique. According to my mother, Darren was misunderstood. Monique was sensitive. And I was strong. I didn't understand until I was older that being called the strong child in a struggling family usually meant one thing. Nobody planned on helping you. They planned on needing you. Darren was 4 years older than me and had been getting rescued from his own decisions for as long as I could remember. At 17, he crashed my mother's car. Mama blamed the other driver. At 21, he got arrested after a fight outside a club. Mama borrowed money to pay his lawyer. At 26, he lost an apartment because he hadn't paid rent in 4 months. My mother said his landlord was heartless. Darren never failed. According to Mama, life simply kept mistreating him. Monique was different. She didn't get in trouble. She just never seemed to finish anything. Nursing school lasted 8 months. Cosmetology lasted 5. Real estate lasted maybe a year. Every new career began with an expensive announcement and ended with somebody else paying whatever bill she'd accumulated during the attempt. Then there was me. At 15, I worked weekends at a grocery store. At 17, I was tutoring middle school students after class. At 19, I was carrying a full college schedule while working 30 hours a week at a medical billing company. I wasn't brilliant. I wasn't lucky. I was terrified of being poor forever. There is a difference. When you've watched your mother spread bills across a kitchen table, deciding whether electricity or groceries matter more that month, money stops being paper. It becomes safety, choice, sleep. I wanted all 3. So I worked. After graduating with a degree in business administration, I spent 5 years working for a company that handled staffing for hospitals and assisted living facilities. I swear I noticed something. Healthcare facilities weren't just struggling to find nurses. They were struggling to find reliable temporary staff quickly. I saw facilities desperate for CNAs. Home health agencies scrambling for weekend coverage. small clinics needing administrative staff for 3-week gaps. And I thought, I can build something better. I started Cole Premier staffing from the dining table in my 1-bedroom apartment. No fancy office, no investors, no wealthy mentor. I had $12,000 in savings and a laptop with a cracked corner. My first client came after 43 rejected phone calls. I remember the number because I marked every rejection on a yellow legal pad. The 44th call was a small rehabilitation center outside Richmond. Their weekend scheduler had quit unexpectedly. They needed 6 temporary workers. I found them 8. After that, the administrator recommended me to another facility, then another. For the first 18 months, I barely slept. I answered calls at 3 a.m. I personally interviewed applicants. I drove across town to deliver paperwork because I couldn't afford a courier. I processed payroll from my kitchen. Some months I paid my employees before I paid myself. But the company grew. By year 3, we were operating in 2 cities. By year 5, we had 32 internal employees and hundreds of contracted healthcare workers. By year 7, Cole Premier Staffing was bringing in over $4 million in annual revenue. And that was when my family stopped calling my business that little company Vanessa is doing. Suddenly everybody wanted a position. Darren came first. "Just give me something in management," he said one Sunday after church. I laughed because I thought he was joking. He wasn't. "Darren, you don't have any staffing experience." So I can't make you a manager over people who've worked in this industry for 10 years. His expression changed immediately. Family's supposed to put family on. I can give you an entry-level operations position. Learn the company first. He leaned back in his chair. Entry-level? Yes. I'm your big brother. And? My mother sucked her teeth from across the table. Vanessa, you don't have to embarrass him. I looked around. How am I embarrassing him? You built all this, and now your own brother has to beg for scraps. That was how it always worked. Anything I earned became evidence that I owed them. Eventually, I gave in. Darren started in vendor management. His salary was $65,000 a year, more than he'd ever made. Within 3 months, he wanted 90. 6 months later, Mama called me complaining that he still didn't have an executive title. People ask him what he does at his sister's company, she said. What is he supposed to say? The truth. You know what I mean. I did. Darren wasn't interested in building anything. He wanted the appearance of already having built it. Monique joined the company the following year. Human resources assistant. I gave her health insurance, a salary, paid vacation, and hours flexible enough for her to pick up her daughter from school. She lasted 4 months before complaining that her supervisor expected her to arrive on time. Mama, can you believe she wrote me up for being 20 minutes late? You were late 12 times, Monique. I'm a single mother. So is your supervisor. The next morning, my mother called. Your sister says you're allowing some woman to disrespect her. That some woman was my HR director, Rachel Kim, who had a master's degree and 15 years of experience. But to my family, credentials didn't matter. Blood did, at least when blood worked in their favor. For years, I kept making compromises. A raise for Darren, a bonus for Monique, a medical bill for Mama, tuition for my niece, Kayla, a down payment when Darren wanted a bigger house, $5,000 here, $10,000 there. I told myself successful people were supposed to help their families, and I still believe that. What I don't believe anymore is that helping somebody means financing their refusal to grow. The first time I truly frightened my family was when I said one word, no. It happened during a Sunday dinner about 8 months before they tried to kill me. Darren wanted $120,000. Not a loan from the company, not an investment proposal. He wanted me to give him the money personally. He and one of his friends wanted to buy into a nightclub. I looked through the documents he'd brought me. There was no business plan, no projected revenue, no licensing documentation. Nothing. Absolutely not. Darren laughed. Come on, Ness. I'm serious. You haven't even heard the whole thing. I've heard enough. Mama looked up from her plate. How much did he ask you for? 120,000. She blinked, then calmly went back to eating. You can afford it. I stared at her. I'm sorry? You heard me. Mama, whether I can afford something doesn't make it a good idea. It's your brother. There is no actual business plan. Darren slammed his fork onto the table. There you go. Here I go doing what? Talking to me like I'm stupid. I didn't call you stupid. You don't have to. It's how you talk. Monique joined in. You have changed, Vanessa. There it was. The sentence families sometimes use when your boundaries become inconvenient. You've changed. Yes. I had. I had learned that loving people and financing them were not the same thing. I am not giving you $120,000. Darren pushed his chair back. I helped you build that company. I almost laughed. You did what? I've been there 5 years. Drawing a salary. That's my point. I sacrificed too. Darren, I employed you. He stood. You always gotta remind everybody you're the one with the money. No, everybody else keeps reminding me. My mother slammed her palm onto the table. Enough. The room went quiet. Then she turned toward me. Your brother has been humbling himself working underneath you for years. That sentence told me everything I needed to know. Working for me was humiliating. Getting paid by me was humiliating. Living partly because of the opportunities I'd created was humiliating. But taking another $120,000? Apparently that would restore his dignity. I packed my bag. I'm leaving. Mama followed me to the front door. Vanessa. I turned. One day, all that money isn't going to keep you warm. I looked at her. Neither will people who only love me when I'm paying for something. Her face went still. I knew I'd hurt her. Back then, I regretted saying it. Now, I regret not saying it years earlier. The discovery happened 5 months later. It was a Thursday morning. My controller, Megan Ellis, walked into my office and closed the door. Megan didn't close doors unless something was wrong. She put a folder on my desk. I think we have a vendor problem. What kind? She sat. The kind where I don't want to accuse anyone until you see it. Inside were payments made to 3 companies: Bright Path Consulting, Atlantic Workforce Solutions, DMC Logistics Group. Over 18 months, Cole Premier Staffing had paid those 3 vendors a combined $286,400. I frowned. I don't recognize these. Neither do I. What services did they provide? That's the problem. There were invoices. Generic ones. Consulting services. Transportation support. Recruitment assistance. But no contracts. No work product. No email correspondence. No department requests. Nothing showing anybody had actually done anything. Who approved these? Megan hesitated, then turned the page. Darren Cole. I felt something cold move through my stomach. No. I checked twice. Maybe these are legitimate vendors he onboarded. Then we're going to need him to explain why Bright Path Consulting is registered to an address belonging to his friend, Terrence Woods. I stared at her. And Atlantic Workforce? P.O. Box. DMC? She looked at me. Registered 3 months ago. To who? Your sister. For a few seconds, the room became completely silent. I could hear the air conditioning, traffic 12 floors below, someone laughing in the hallway, my own breathing. I called Darren. Come to my office. Busy right now. Now. 10 minutes later, he walked in with an attitude. Monique arrived 15 minutes after that. I put the documents on the conference table. Somebody start talking. Monique looked at Darren. Darren looked at me. Then smiled. Ness, this ain't what it looks like. That sentence should be printed on the national flag of guilty people. What does it look like, Darren? We used outside people. Who? Different people. Names. I don't remember everybody. Then show me the work. He leaned forward. You calling me a thief? I'm asking you to explain almost $300,000 in payments. Monique crossed her arms. We didn't steal anything. I turned toward her. I didn't say you did. Her mouth closed. That was mistake number 1. Darren stood. You know what? I'm not doing this. Sit down. I'm grown. And you're suspended. That stopped him. What? Effective immediately. His eyes widened. You can't suspend me. It's my company. He laughed without humor. You really love saying that. Security will collect your badge. Monique jumped up. What about me? You're suspended too. For what? Until I know exactly what happened. Her voice went high. I have a child. And I have hundreds of employees whose livelihoods depend on this company. You would fire your own sister? If my own sister stole from me? I looked directly at her. Yes. Darren pointed at me. Be careful. There was something about the way he said it. Quiet. Controlled. Not angry anymore. It made me uncomfortable. Is that a threat? No. He smiled. Just saying. Be careful what you start. They left. An hour later, Mama called. Not to ask what happened. Not to ask whether the allegations were true. She called already angry with me. Put your brother back to work. I nearly dropped the phone. Mama, do you even know what happened? He told me. Then you know money is missing. It's not missing. I froze. How would you know? Silence. Small, but noticeable. Mama? I mean, Darren explained it. What exactly did he explain? That it was business. What business? Day. Vanessa, stop interrogating me. That's when my suspicion grew teeth. My mother knew something. Maybe not everything, but something. I hired an outside forensic accounting firm that afternoon. I didn't tell my family. For the next 3 weeks, I acted normal. Then the accountant called me into a meeting. The 3 fake vendors were only the beginning. Darren had manipulated vendor payments. Monique had added non-existent contractors to payroll. Money had been routed into accounts connected to both of them, and several checks had been deposited into an account where my mother was listed as an authorized user. Total suspected theft? $612,000. Over 2.5 years. I sat there staring at the figure. $612,000. Not taken by strangers. Taken by the same people who had accused me of forgetting my family. I drove to Mama's house that night. Darren and Monique were already there. Maybe they'd expected me. Maybe Mama had warned them. Either way, the atmosphere was wrong from the moment I entered. Nobody looked surprised. I placed the audit summary on the dining table. $612,000. Mama's eyes moved toward Darren. I caught it. How much did you know? She stood. Vanessa, sit down. No. Sit down so we can talk like family. We're going to talk standing up. Darren came out of the kitchen. We were going to pay it back. I laughed. Not because anything was funny. Because sometimes the truth is so outrageous your body doesn't know what else to do. Pay it back? Yes. With what? The club was supposed to make money. And there it was. He had used stolen company money to finance the nightclub I refused to fund. I turned toward Monique. And you? Tears appeared immediately. I didn't take that much. I almost admired the answer. Not, I didn't steal. I didn't steal that much. Mama stepped between us. Nobody meant to hurt you. You stole over $500,000 from my company. Your brother was trying to build something. Using my money. You had plenty. I stared at her. That sentence hurt worse than the theft. You had plenty. As though stealing became acceptable when the victim worked hard enough to survive it. Mama, did you know? She looked away. Mama, I knew Darren needed help. Did you know the money was coming from my company? She didn't answer. That was answer enough. I looked at all three of them. I'm reporting this. Monique started crying harder. What? Tomorrow morning my attorney is contacting the police. Mama grabbed my arm. Vanessa, don't you dare. I slowly looked down at her hand until she released me. Darren could go to prison. He should have thought about that before stealing. Your niece could lose her mother. Monique should have thought about that too. Darren stepped close. So that's it? That's it. You'd really send your own blood to prison? I didn't make any of you steal. His jaw tightened. I could see hatred behind his eyes now. Not fear. Hatred. After everything we did for you. What did you do for me, Darren? We're your family. You keep saying that like it's a receipt. Mama suddenly started crying. And for 1 weak second, the old Vanessa returned. The daughter who hated seeing her mother upset. The sister who fixed everything. I almost softened. Then Mama said, "Give us until Monday." I frowned. What? Don't call anybody tomorrow. Give us the weekend. Let us find a way to put some of the money back. I've already made my decision. Please. She took both my hands. Just 1 weekend. I should have said no. I wish every day that I had. But she was my mother. So I agreed. Monday morning. That was the deadline. They had 72 hours. On Saturday, Mama called. I'm cooking tomorrow. Come eat. I don't think that's a good idea. Vanessa, whatever happens Monday, you're still my child. Those words got me. Maybe some tiny part of me hoped she'd finally chosen me over Darren. Maybe I wanted one last normal Sunday before everything fell apart. I went. That was mistake number 2. Sunday dinner looked ordinary. Too ordinary. Fried chicken, macaroni and cheese, collard greens, cornbread. Mama even made peach cobbler. Darren wasn't there when I arrived. Neither was Monique. Where is everybody? They're coming. Mama poured wine into 2 glasses. I almost never drank at her house. But that night she handed me one. To getting through hard times. I stared at her. That's an interesting toast. She gave a sad smile. Just drink with your mother. So I did. 1 glass, maybe half of another. 20 minutes later, something felt wrong. My arms became heavy. I blinked several times. Mama? I'm dizzy. You probably haven't eaten enough. I ate. I tried standing. The room tilted. My knees buckled. Mama caught my shoulder. That's when I saw Darren coming through the hallway. He had been there the entire time. Darren? He wouldn't look at me. I knew. I don't know how, but somewhere inside that chemical fog, I understood. What did you? My tongue felt thick. Mama stroked my hair. Shh. I tried reaching for my phone. She moved it away. Mama, I'm sorry, baby. Those were the last clear words I heard. Then darkness. I remember fragments after that. Hands under my arms. My shoes dragging. Cold concrete against my heel. Someone complaining that I was heavy. The smell of gasoline. A car door shutting. Then nothing. I woke up 3 days later. There was a machine beside my hospital bed. My throat felt like sandpaper. A man was sitting in the corner wearing a gray suit. When he noticed my eyes open, he stood. Ms. Cole? I tried speaking. Nothing came out. He pressed the nurse button. My name is Detective Aaron Wallace. You're at St. Mary's Medical Center. My heart started racing. You're safe. I shook my head. No, I wasn't. Mama. The word barely came out. He leaned closer. What about your mother? I started crying. Not gently. My entire body shook. My mother. A nurse rushed in. After the doctors stabilized me and explained what had happened, Detective Wallace returned. A security monitoring company had received a carbon monoxide alert from my mother's property at 10:47 Sunday night. Mama had recently installed a smart alarm system. She didn't realize the detached garage sensor was connected to it. The monitoring company called the house. Nobody answered. They called emergency services. Firefighters arrived and found me unconscious inside my car. Engine running. Garage door closed. My blood carbon monoxide level was dangerously high. Toxicology also found zolpidem, a prescription sedative, in my system. I didn't have a prescription for zolpidem. My mother did. Detective Wallace watched me carefully. Your family says you were emotionally distressed. I stared at him. They said you've been under significant pressure because of your company. I still couldn't believe what I was hearing. They said you arrived intoxicated, argued with them, and threatened to hurt yourself. No. Your brother says he took your keys away, but you found the spare. No. Your mother found a note. He slid a plastic evidence sleeve onto the hospital table. Inside was a printed piece of paper. I'm tired of everyone needing me. I can't do this anymore. Please don't blame yourselves. I stared at it, then started laughing. Detective Wallace looked confused. What's funny? I pointed at the note. I would never write that. Why? Because I'm a writer when I'm upset. He frowned. I keep journals. I write letters. Long ones. I don't write 3 lines and disappear. Then I saw something else. Also, I don't use that font. He raised an eyebrow. Font? That's Calibri. Okay. My office documents are all Arial. My personal computer defaults to Georgia. I hate Calibri. For the first time, Detective Wallace almost smiled. That's unusually specific. I run a company. Then I remembered. The audit. Monday. My family knew I was going to police. Detective. Yes? They tried to kill me. His expression changed. I told him everything. The missing money. The vendors. The confrontation. My deadline. Sunday dinner. The wine. Darren appearing in the hallway. Mama apologizing as I lost consciousness. He didn't interrupt once. When I finished, he said, "Do you have access to those audit records?" I smiled weakly. My attorney does. My attorney's name was Cynthia Brooks. She was 58, 5'3", and terrifying when somebody underestimated her. When she arrived 2 hours later, she didn't hug me. Cynthia knew me well enough to understand I'd fall apart if she did. Instead, she pulled a chair beside the bed. "Tell me what you remember." I did. Then she opened her briefcase. "Good." I blinked. "Good? Not good that they tried to murder you." "Thank you for clarifying. The good news is your brother is an idiot." That was Cynthia. Straight to the point. "What happened?" "While you were unconscious, Darren attempted to access the company operating account." I stared at her. "What?" "He also emailed 2 board advisors claiming you'd experienced what he called a serious psychological episode." My stomach turned. "He's trying to take the company." "Correct." "How?" "He produced a power of attorney." I sat upright too fast and immediately became dizzy. "A what?" "Supposedly signed by you 4 months ago." "I never signed anything." "I know." She placed a photocopy in front of me. My signature was convincing. Very convincing. But fake. The document gave Darren authority to handle certain business affairs if I became incapacitated. He hadn't just tried to kill me. He had prepared to replace me afterward. This was planned. Cynthia's voice softened. "Yes." Suddenly, Mama's smile made sense. The dinner. The note. The drugs. Darren hiding in the house. This wasn't panic because they were afraid of prison. They had planned every step. Kill Vanessa. Call it suicide. Use a forged power of attorney to seize temporary control of the company. Hide the fraud. Maybe eventually sell my ownership stake. Then something else occurred to me. My will. Cynthia nodded. I already checked. 3 years earlier, before my relationship with my family deteriorated, I'd written a basic estate plan. My mother received 20%. Darren received 15%. Monique received 15%. The rest went into trusts for my niece and 2 nephews. The company shares could eventually be liquidated. They didn't just need me silent. They stood to become rich from my death. I closed my eyes. How much? Based on the current company valuation. She hesitated. Your estate is worth somewhere between $6 and $8 million. I cried then, quietly this time, not because of the money. Because suddenly every birthday card, every "we love you," every Sunday dinner felt contaminated. My family hadn't looked at me and seen Vanessa. They'd seen an asset. And when the asset stopped cooperating, they tried to collect early. Cynthia let me cry. Then she asked, "What do you want to do?" I opened my eyes. Everything legally possible. That's broad. I want the theft prosecuted. I want the attempted murder investigated. I want every account secured. I want Darren locked out of my company before he can breathe near another password. She nodded. And your estate plan? Change everything. To what? My mother gets nothing. Darren gets nothing. Monique gets nothing. The children? They didn't do this. Cynthia nodded again. I'll create independent trusts. And Cynthia? Yes? Don't tell my family I'm awake. That got her attention. Vanessa, they think I'm unconscious? Last information given to them was that you were in critical condition. Keep it that way as long as legally possible. What are you planning? For once? I looked toward the hospital window. I'm going to stop rescuing them from the consequences of their own decisions. For the next 6 days, my family believed I might die, and they became very busy. Darren called an emergency management meeting. Monique removed files from her office. Mama contacted my insurance agent. That one hurt. 24 hours after doctors told her I was in critical condition, My mother called to ask about my life insurance policy, the same mother who hadn't visited me once. They told hospital staff they were too emotionally overwhelmed. Apparently, they weren't too overwhelmed for paperwork, but they had a bigger problem. Cynthia had already obtained an emergency court order restricting access to several business accounts. My chief operating officer, Rachel, cooperated immediately. So did Megan. Together, they quietly preserved emails, payment records, server logs, security footage, and building access data. Meanwhile, Detective Wallace found something nobody expected. My mother's neighbor had a doorbell camera. At 9:18 Sunday night, it recorded Darren's SUV leaving Mama's driveway. At 9:18:31, it returned. Why leave for 13 minutes? Police eventually discovered the answer. Darren had driven my phone nearly 2 miles away and thrown it into a drainage canal. They recovered it. He had apparently hoped investigators would believe I'd left the house, returned alone later, and gone into the garage. Except the neighbor's camera also showed something else. My car never left. Then came the most damaging evidence. Mama's security camera. Darren thought he'd deleted the footage. He had deleted it from the app. He didn't realize the security company retained cloud copies for 30 days. The video didn't show inside the garage. It didn't need to. At 10:03 p.m., the camera showed Darren and Mama carrying me through the back door. My feet were dragging. I was unconscious. At 10:08, Darren returned alone. At 10:10, he went back carrying my purse. At 10:13, my mother stood outside the garage door for almost a full minute. Then she closed it. At 10:16, both of them walked into the house. Neither looked panicked. Neither called 911. For 31 minutes, they stayed inside. They would have stayed longer. The carbon monoxide alarm saved me. Monique wasn't in the footage, but her involvement emerged through text messages. Recovered messages between her and Darren included, "Is it done? Mama scared. Make sure the paperwork looks right." And the message that destroyed whatever sympathy I had left for my little sister, "How long does it take?" Darren replied, "Google says could be quick. Stop texting." I read that message twice, then handed the phone back to Detective Wallace. "Charge them. We're working with the Commonwealth attorney." "No." I looked him directly in the eyes. "I mean, don't protect me from details because they're my family. Don't soften anything. Don't give them some special consideration because my mother is 64 or because Monique has a child. They didn't give me special consideration when they closed that garage." He nodded. "I understand. But before the arrests happened, Cynthia gave me something I hadn't realized I needed. A choice. Your mother's church anniversary banquet is Saturday." I looked at her suspiciously. "And why do you know that?" "Because your mother posted about it." I hadn't looked at social media since the attack. Cynthia turned her laptop toward me. There was Mama, smiling in a cream dress. Her caption read, "Please continue praying for our family as we walk through an unimaginable private crisis. God is carrying us." I almost broke the laptop. Private crisis? It gets better. No. Unfortunately, yes. She scrolled. People were commenting prayers, calling Mama strong, saying they hoped her daughter recovered from her mental health crisis. My mother had told people I'd tried to kill myself. She was protecting herself by destroying my reputation. Then I noticed another post. Darren had written, "Mental health struggles can affect even successful people. Check on the strong ones." I stared at it. Then at Cynthia. "Can I go to that banquet?" She smiled. "I was hoping you'd ask." Saturday evening, My mother was standing inside the fellowship hall accepting hugs when I walked through the doors. You should have seen her face. For 5 full seconds she didn't move. Neither did Darren. Neither did Monique. Conversations around the room slowly faded as people began noticing where they were staring. Me, alive, standing in the doorway in a navy pantsuit, my hair pulled back, my face still thinner from the hospital, but very much alive. Mama's mouth opened. Vanessa. I smiled. Hi, Mama. Somebody gasped. An elderly woman rushed toward me. Baby. Thank God. People began clapping. Actually clapping. They thought they were witnessing a miracle. In a way, they were. Just not the kind Mama wanted. She walked toward me stiffly. You're awake. Interesting choice of words. Not. You're okay. Not. I missed you. You're awake. Very. Darren started moving toward a side exit, then stopped. 2 detectives were standing there. His entire body changed. I watched the understanding reach him. Mama saw them too. Her face drained. Vanessa, what did you do? I laughed softly. What did I do? Monique started crying immediately. Please. I turned toward her. That single word almost made me angrier than anything else. Please. The same word I would have been screaming if I'd woken up inside that garage. The same word they were never planning to hear. Don't. She covered her mouth. Mama lowered her voice. Whatever you think happened, we can discuss this at home. No. Vanessa. You told these people I tried to kill myself. Several church members exchanged looks. Mama's eyes hardened. This is not the place. You made it the place when you used these people to help cover what you did. Darren suddenly spoke. Nobody tried to kill you. Detective Wallace stepped closer. I looked at my brother. There's video. His face changed. Just slightly. But enough. What video? Mama turned toward him. I smiled. Exactly. Detective Wallace approached. Darren Cole? Darren backed away. Man, hold on. You are under arrest for attempted murder, conspiracy, forgery, financial crimes, and related offenses. Chaos. Absolute chaos. People started shouting. Monique collapsed into a chair. Mama grabbed Detective Wallace's arm. You don't understand. Another officer stepped forward. Ma'am, remove your hand. My son didn't do anything. I stared at her. Even then, even after everything, she was protecting Darren, not me. Darren. Police cuffed him. Then Detective Wallace looked toward my mother. Lillian Cole, you're also under arrest. Mama's eyes flew toward me. Vanessa, that scream will probably stay with me forever. Not because it broke my heart. Because it didn't. And that was when I knew I was finally free. She struggled as officers cuffed her. You are destroying this family. I walked closer. No, Mama. My voice was calm. You destroyed it when you closed that garage. For once, she had nothing to say. Monique tried to slip toward the door. She didn't get far. A female officer stopped her. Monique Cole. She started sobbing. I have a daughter. The officer didn't react. Turn around, please. Monique looked at me. Vanessa, please. Kayla needs me. That hurt. Because Kayla did need her. She was 12 years old. An innocent child. But then I remembered the message. How long does it take? I couldn't save Monique from that. Not anymore. Kayla will be taken care of. Her face crumpled. By who? Me. She stared at me. Even after what she'd done, I wasn't going to abandon her daughter. But I wasn't going to confuse protecting Kayla with protecting Monique. There is a difference. It took me 36 years to learn it. The criminal investigation lasted months. The financial case expanded far beyond what we'd originally discovered. Darren and Monique had stolen $684,000 in total. Mama had personally received over $90,000. They had used fake companies, false invoices, payroll manipulation, and unauthorized transfers. The forged power of attorney had been prepared nearly 6 weeks before my attempted murder. The suicide note had been created on Darren's laptop. Forensic analysis found earlier drafts. The first version said, "I'm sorry, I can't handle the pressure anymore." The second, "Nobody understands how exhausted I am." They edited my fake final words, like they were preparing a marketing campaign. That detail made me physically sick. Then investigators found internet searches. Carbon monoxide death time garage. Can sleeping pills be detected after death? What happens to business if owner dies without spouse? Power of attorney after death. That last search would have been funny if the situation weren't so horrifying. A power of attorney expires when the person dies. Darren had planned an entire murder without understanding the document he intended to use afterward. His greed was bigger than his intelligence. Mama eventually claimed Darren manipulated her. Darren claimed Mama planned the poisoning. Monique claimed she thought they were only trying to scare me. They turned on one another almost immediately. So much for family loyalty. The same people who lectured me for years about blood sticking together couldn't survive 3 interrogation rooms. Mama accepted a plea agreement. Monique did too. Darren refused. He was convinced he could beat the case. He couldn't. The video of them carrying my unconscious body toward the garage played in court. I watched the jury's faces. Some looked horrified. One woman covered her mouth when Mama appeared on screen closing the garage door. Darren stared straight ahead. For the first time in my life, I didn't wonder what he was feeling. I didn't care. When I gave my victim impact statement, Mama refused to look at me. So I spoke directly to the judge. For most of my life, I thought being a good daughter meant giving until there was nothing left to give. I thought being a good sister meant fixing every problem, paying every bill, and forgiving every betrayal because we shared a last name. My voice trembled. I stopped, breathed, then continued. I now understand that love without boundaries becomes permission. I gave my family permission to use me for years because I was afraid that saying no would make them stop loving me. Mama finally looked up. I met her eyes. And when I finally said no, I discovered something painful. Some of them never loved me. They loved access to me. The courtroom was completely silent. They stole my money. When I discovered it, they tried to steal my company. When that wasn't enough, they tried to steal my life. I looked toward Darren. I survived. And I will spend the rest of my life making sure surviving them is not the most interesting thing about me. That was the last time I spoke to my brother. Cole Premier Staffing survived too. Actually, it did more than survive. The scandal forced me to restructure everything. Independent financial approvals. Better internal controls. No relatives reporting directly to ownership. No informal family arrangements. No exceptions, because someone shares my DNA. Within a year, revenue increased by 28%. Funny what happens when your company stops secretly funding somebody else's lifestyle. Rachel became my COO. Megan became CFO. And for the first time, I had an executive team built around competence instead of guilt. I sold the house where the attack happened after Mama lost it during the legal proceedings. I couldn't drive past that neighborhood. Didn't want to. My own car was evidence for months. When the police finally released it, I sold that too. Some objects carry memories you don't need to prove you're strong enough to keep. Kayla moved in with her father. I pay her school tuition directly. Not through Monique. Not through anybody. I created trusts for all 3 children in the family. They'll have access for education, medical needs, and eventually home ownership. The adults? Nothing. Not $1. My estate now goes partly to those children's trusts and partly to a nonprofit I started for women, rebuilding their lives after financial abuse. Mama sent me a letter from prison. 4 pages. She said she was sorry. She said fear had confused her. She said Darren convinced her I would send everyone away for decades. She said she loved me. I read the letter once, then put it in a drawer. Maybe one day I'll forgive her. Maybe I already have, in the sense that I don't wake up every morning wishing her pain. But forgiveness isn't the same as access. I don't need to sit across from her at Thanksgiving to prove my heart is clean. I don't need to answer prison calls. I don't need to reopen a door somebody once tried to permanently close on me. That lesson cost me nearly everything. I intend to remember it. 3 weeks ago, I stood outside the hospital where doctors saved my life. Patricia, one of the nurses who cared for me during recovery, happened to be leaving work. She recognized me. Vanessa? I smiled. She hugged me. You look good. I feel good. She stepped back. Family doing any better? I paused, then smiled. I am. She understood immediately. Sometimes the family doing better is just you. And that's enough. People hear my story now and ask how I missed the warning signs. How did I not know my family could do something like that? The answer is simple. Nobody starts by trying to kill you. They start by teaching you that saying no is selfish. They punish your boundaries. They turn your success into community property. They make you responsible for consequences you didn't create. They call disrespect family. They call exploitation help. They call obedience love. And if you accept each smaller violation long enough, eventually, the unbelievable doesn't feel unbelievable to them anymore. My family didn't decide to destroy me in one night. They spent years convincing themselves that what belonged to me belonged to them. My money, my company, my time, my future, eventually, even my life. They made one mistake. They thought the woman they carried into that garage was still the Vanessa who would wake up worrying about what everyone else needed. She wasn't. That woman disappeared the moment my mother closed the garage door. The woman who came out of that hospital learned something the old Vanessa never could. Sometimes saving your family doesn't mean rescuing them. Sometimes it means finally allowing them to face what they've become. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can say to people who have spent your entire life taking from you is nothing at all. You simply close the door, walk away, and this time, you don't go back.